Hi everyone, welcome to another live star stream of UTA Planetarium Show. My name is Levent Kürdemir, UTA Planetarium Director, and here in the studio, Jim Bader, Program Coordinator with me. Hello, Jim.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good.
Good.
A lot happened, I think, since last week
Definitely.
in the sky, in the
Definitely.
news.
We got all kinds of stuff up and visible for people. So yeah, I thought it would be neat if they want to. If you want to, would you do us a huge favor and just show what's up? Bright lights. There's a couple of bright things up in the sky.
So yeah,
Um
a lot of people started noticing, I hope, in the night sky, there are some bright lights, and people are wondering what they are. Of course, we are not gonna say it's a UFO
well
because
it
we know what it is.
oh yeah,
It
yeah,
is
okay.
not unidentified to us. So let's go with sky update. And here are many bright lights of the night sky, and they start appearing as soon as the sun goes down and the sky turns bright. So there are planets. There are 5 planets you can see. And the 5 planets can actually help us to find a special guideline in the sky called ecliptic. So let's start with the planets. Of course, the brightest one is going to be the brightest planet in the solar system. It is going to be Jupiter. So let's see Jupiter in the sky. Is this the south direction or east direction? So we need to look at the direction east. All right, this is not south. All right, so let's see Jupiter. Jupiter first here. That is going to be pretty bright in the sky, and Jupiter is the largest planet of the solar system. And of course, if you have access to even a very small telescope, you can see the brown stripes and white stripes on the surface of Jupiter. And of course, the stripes are the storm regions. This is a stormy planet. The storms are going on all the time. And you can even see this little feature over here called Great Red Spot, which is a continuous storm region on the surface of Jupiter. The size sometimes shrinks, sometimes enlarges. We don't know why, but it is 24/7 there. And the second planet, or the second brightest pinpoint light in the sky, is going to be Saturn, the second largest of the solar system. But this one has a special feature because it features rings around it. So they are pretty close in the sky, as you can see. The rings of Jupiter, you can even see, you can use a small telescope and see these beautiful ring system. Well, you know what, actually, in fact, Jupiter, Saturn, and other gas giant planets also have rings around them, but none of them's rings are as clear, as big, as gorgeous as the ones around Saturn. Well, the reason is that Saturn have like different mechanisms to form rings, and also the rings are very small particles of dust, ice, and everything is covered by ice. They are reflecting sunlight, so it's a great ring system. And here is another 2 planets over here. One of them is uh, going to be, should you guess, Mercury, Venus? Those are over here. Mercury may be too low in the horizon, so you may not be able to see it because it requires absolute, perfect, clear horizon. And maybe if you are out in the field, in the country, you may be able to catch Mercury. But Venus is very bright and it is high in the sky. Venus is probably one of the most noticeable planets in the night sky. Well,
Definitely bright.
the clouds of Venus is they are extremely reflective. They are acting like mirror, so that mirror effect sends a lot of sunlight towards us. So we see that planet in the sky, hanging in the sky, very bright.
Levent, we have one more
Hmm. And that
planet that
is,
you can't see with the naked eye.
yes, we cannot see. We cannot see even with a
Let's
telescope.
mark it.
It is very difficult, right? Because that planet is so far out in the solar system. Even though it's a gas giant planet, it is so far out in the solar system. Well, if we just look at directly, use our eyes, we will not be able to see it. If we use just like a little like amateur backyard telescope, we won't be able to see that planet. This planet is Neptune. It's a blue gas giant planet. Well, that's not surprising that that planet is so dim that it was not discovered for a long time in the solar system. And actually, discovery of that planet is very interesting uh, because, like the our ancestors knew that there are the planets in the solar system or in the night sky. They didn't have any actually understanding of the solar system, like the sun is at the center, planets orbiting around it. But they knew that there were like stars, like pretty stationary, and there were planets wandering. They were moving respect to the reference point, so they called it planet, which means wanderer. So those wanderers were known, but only visible wanderers were known. And those were Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, because they are visible. You can see them. Astronomers knew and tracked them. But the rest of the planets in the solar system remained a mystery, or just remained unnoticed for a long time, for thousands of years. And finally, with the improved telescopes, a discovery came by Sir William Herschel. He discovered Uranus. And after the Uranus's discovery, actually, there's an interesting story behind it because he got to name the planet. And guess what was the name of the Uranus in the first place? It was George. So Sir William Herschel decided to name the planet George because his research was funded by King George, which pretty much like his boss. So he wanted to name the planet after his boss's name.
Well, thank goodness they named it something less offensive, right?
Well, but the Uranus was only in English. It may perceived as offensive, but it's not actually coming from English word or English language, right? It's coming from actually Greek, and this name wasn't received well among the scientists. And a few decades later, the scientific community said, well, we need to name this planet differently. Anyway, Uranus was discovered, and after the discovery of Uranus, scientists tracked its positions in the sky and noticed something's wrong going on with the planet. And that was because of the tug effect of Neptune. Uranus was sometimes slowing down on its orbit and sometimes speeding up. So what can cause that type of behavior? So scientists were thinking the only explanation could be there may be another planet behind Uranus causing that, because that planet must have a big gravity. Turns out after a long time, after some calculations, they say, hey, we actually need to look this place in the sky, and maybe we can locate another gas giant planets. And they did. So it turned out to be Neptune, blue planet. So looking forwards, today's show, I cannot read. It's too far.
Oh,
if you can help me, Jim.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah, we just wanted.
It's not that I'm getting old. It's just the letters are tiny.
All right. Okay. So Janet said, looking forward to today's show.
Okay.
Thank you, Janet. Always glad to have you here.
Hi, Janet.
Lamia guessed correctly when you asked which planets were up. She said Venus. So typical Lamia coming in with the right answers. Nothing new there. And then Lamia also immediately responds and says, "Is that red one Mars?" Do you want to elaborate on that, Lamia? Probably directly behind you or right over your left ear.
No, it's not Mars. Is it Antares?
This one, the one above your left ear, is probably Arcturus, and then the one right, super red one is almost certainly.
Okay, yeah. The computer here exaggerates the color, so I cannot tell which one is red, which one is orange. Literally, If you are talking about this one is Arcturus, and I can show you a very good trick to find Arcturus or make sure it's Arcturus. And here behind me, I can see well, the Scorpius constellation Scorpius. We talked about Scorpius before, and the Scorpius at the center there is a very red, noticeably red star called Antares. So here is the thing about these. When you find these planets, as I mentioned, you can find actually a special astronomy guide. So this astronomical guide is like just note the name of the location of the planet. So we started with Mercury, right? There's something blue in between. I don't know what that is.
I believe that's Spica.
Spica. All right, the computer really exaggerates the colors then, because we cannot see blue star like this blue in the sky. It will appear like a very whitish star. But anyway, here is Venus, and here Jupiter, Saturn, if you remember, and Neptune. Neptune is not going to be as big in the sky, but they appear to be on a line. If you look at you can just draw a big line in the sky to find these planets. This line is actually called ecliptic. And ecliptic is the plane of the solar system. So we can, when we look at this, the solar system pictures, always, it looks like a flat plane, like a surface of a pizza. And the sun is at the center and the planets are orbiting around it. So the planets are not orbiting the sun just in a random directions or random orbits. The orbits are pretty much lined up with each other. So they are pretty much like the surface of a pizza. So this surface or the edge of the surface is called ecliptic. So because we have ecliptic in the sky, then we can see, like, we can make sure that we will all see the planets in the same line in the sky. So that means once we found the ecliptic, you do not expect any planet to appear here, including the moon, or down below. So that is going to be very, very good guide to find the planets.
All right, so we have another question from Jared. It asks, what planets objects are best viewed with binoculars? Do you have an opinion on that, Levent?
Yes, there are tons of objects that you can use a pair of binoculars to see. Some of the planets, like for example Jupiter, depending on the type of the binocular, Jupiter may be okay, maybe Saturn, but the favorite binocular objects will be, especially during winter, if you find the Pleiades. That's a very good binocular object because it is actually best seen with binoculars. So in the western, in the winter sky, you can find constellation Taurus, and in Taurus you can see this 7 bright stars to start with. But when you use your binocular, you will see plenty of
tons.
Hundreds of stars enclosed in a very blue nebula. So that is very
another object that's really good to see is right behind you, the moon.
Oh yeah,
the moon's
moon,
fantastic.
yeah, moon. I prefer a telescope, a small size telescope for the moon, because I can see the dark edges, the terminator point, etc. The moon is always great.
Okay.
So you found ecliptic. So you found the plane of the solar system, and you know what? On the ecliptic, so there are 12 constellations that you are familiar with. Like for example, one of them was Scorpio. We talked about Antares and Scorpio. Scorpio's location is on the ecliptic. So can you show us the ecliptic one more time, Jim? Because on the ecliptic, astronomers tend to put these month markers. And the reason is there are 12 constellations located on the ecliptic. So we can see like 1/2 of this 12 at a given night, because the other 6 remains on the other side of the sky. So and 12 constellations later decided that so each constellation is actually a month. So that's why we have 12 months in a calendar year, because there are 12 constellations on the ecliptic. So, and each constellation or each window is later given name by month name. So we have December, November, October, and so on the ecliptic. So if you are wondering where the 12-month calendar come from, why it is not 10, why it is not 20, but it is 12, it is because. So similarly, 24 hours in a day is coming from, because the 24 is the 2 times the 12. So we have not 20 or 25 hours in one day, we have 24 hours, because that pretty much the Earth sweeps the ecliptic once. So the 24 hour is given because 24 hours is 2 times 12.
All right, so we have some extension of more questions, Levent. Another good question from Lamia asks, why are Neptune and Uranus blue?
Because of the gas is mainly methane gas
Yeah.
in their atmosphere. And the methane makes the planet appear to be blue. So everything is reflecting, the planets are reflecting sunlight. So planets are not making or producing any light. There is no light source or bulb inside the planets. So they are reflecting sunlight. So the gases in the atmosphere interacts with the sunlight, and at one layer, not directly from the edge of the atmosphere, the sunlight penetrates into the atmosphere, and from one layer deep reflects back. So this interaction between the molecules in the atmosphere and the sunlight causes some changes, and then what we get is the reflected light. After the interaction, it may change the characteristics, it may change the wavelength, and in the case of Uranus and Neptune, it turns into blue.
Definitely
Great questions.
We had one more question from Kurt. Thank you for the questions, Kurt.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can let you read it. The gaseous planets like Jupiter and Neptune and Saturn lose mass from evaporation or meteor strikes, or is it fairly stable? Do we even know?
The Jupiter and Neptune gaseous planets lose mass from evaporation or meteor strikes. No, they are not losing mass. Meteor strikes, actually, they gain mass. Not only like the meteor strikes, the Saturn and Jupiter especially, and other gaseous or giant planets, because of their huge gravity, they are also called vacuum cleaners of the solar system, which means when they are orbiting, they tend to collect debris. They tend to attract debris, and that attracted debris eventually gains to the main mass of these planets. This is same thing true actually for Earth. When we talk about meteor showers, we said the Earth is actually gaining about 40,000 pounds every day. Well, this may be a lot of weight for us, but for a planet, it is not much. And the Earth is gaining weight because a lot of debris through the meteorite events are actually landing on the surface of the planet, and it is making planet gain weight. So similar things happen at a larger scale to Jupiter and Saturn, but the gained mass is not very significant.
Cool
significant
fact.
enough.
So just because he mentioned it, and maybe it's because he saw this in the news, an amateur astronomer recorded this little clip that we're seeing here. This is enlarged quite a bit. As you can see, the resolution's very low, and it's slowed down quite a bit too. But this is a video of Jupiter getting struck by an object. This happened just a few days ago and was captured by an amateur astronomer. Super cool, but you can see just in the edge nearest to you, you're kind of lighting up. Definitely gaining mass in this situation.
If you can find on the internet, in 1996, there was a comet strike. The whole world televisions watched that event. So a comet struck into Jupiter and broke into several pieces and created nice spots on the surface of Jupiter. So the reason Jupiter and Saturn attracts the most material, most free debris in the solar system, because their gravity is the largest amongst the planets.
Yeah, very, very interesting, for sure. Yeah. Well, thanks for the questions, guys. We have plenty more. You always feel free to drop questions you may have.
Yeah, that's why we are doing these streams live, because otherwise we are just losing the feedback from our viewers, and also the opportunity to ask questions. Otherwise, we could just record the video, and Jim has great editing capabilities. He could edit the video and make everything look good. Actually, if you haven't watched his videos, you can find them on Planetarium's Facebook and YouTube. He had for what formerly called weekly night sky videos, and he was just doing fantastic, producing fantastic videos. You can watch them, but you cannot ask any questions to Jim when you were watching the video.
No, you cannot. Anyway, yeah, always feel free to ask questions during the stream, but even between streams too. We usually try to start a discussion on the live stream before we go live. So if you have anything, just shoot it to us. I think we've had several of you do it before. Lamia, definitely. We had a pretty good.
I think we have a new viewer, Jared.
Yeah, he said a
you give
new
any
question.
thought?
Do you give any thought to our future in space/solar system?
Future in space/solar system. Well,
I'm
not in.
guessing that's us in the solar system.
Yeah, well, nothing is gonna change much. At least, I mean, I'm not talking about climate-wise or habitability-wise, but I'm talking about the like with the physics dynamics. Nothing is gonna change much in the next 5 billion years. But a lot is going to change after 5 billion years, because the sun will run out of hydrogen, the main element it's burning currently to produce light and energy. And after the hydrogen is out, no, the sun is not going to just turn off and just cool down. The sun will seek for an alternative element to burn for. So this is what stars do. One element burns out, and unlike that, you run out of gas in the car, and your car doesn't try to find something else to burn, but the stars do. So after hydrogen runs out, the sun will figure out that it has a lot of stock of helium, because when hydrogen is burning, every gas, the hydrogen, every element of hydrogen is turning into the helium. All right, so the sun will try burning helium, but to burn the helium element, the sun needs to change a few things. Like, for example, it needs to change its size. So the sun will start inflate, so it will get larger and larger and larger. And then guess what happens? The Mercury, Venus, Earth, and potentially Mars will be actually fall inside the sun. And then the sun will start shrinking. It will shrink to the point that the helium reactions starts. Anyway, after then, a lot of things will change.
Will be action-packed, to say the least. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into our first news story of the week, if that's all right with you, Levin. This one's pretty interesting because we were kind of on the subject just recently. So a new study suggests that most matter in protoplanetary disks actually gets ejected into interstellar space. So you assume that after a star forms, as you can see this artist rendition behind us, after a star forms, it has this huge area of stuff left over. And we thought before that most of that stuff coalesces into planets. But it turns out this new study is saying, hey, we don't think that's actually the case. What do you have to say about that, Levin?
Well, these are very interesting. So we talked about with Marialis a few streams ago, right?
Yep.
the formation. And of course, this is an artistic rendering. No telescope or no space mission is able to fly near a star and take a nice picture like this. But yeah, the stars have some mechanisms to the shoot material, and that material may form later planets. So they call it protoplanetary disks. So these disks, I mean, we talked about the formation of planets. So these materials cool down and shrink and form small rocks, and then those rocks combine and form planets. And then, some like future collisions change the dynamics of planets, maybe form moons around the planets. But also, we know that some of the material can be thrown out from the solar system. And when I heard the first term, free floating planets, I was wondering, what is free floating planet? So a free floating planet is a planet that is traveling from one star to another. So it is not bound to any star system. But it is still considered a planet. And even further interestingly, they can actually host life. Yes, the free floating planets, so they don't get any starlight, they don't get any heat, but if they have a thick, dense atmosphere, so it can keep the planet warm enough that the planet can hold liquid water and planet can hold life. So it's a different story, but planets can free float. And later, and of course this takes very long time, the planets can captured by another star and join their system. Like when we first think about Pluto and how Pluto got in the first place, we talked about ecliptic and we talked about planets orbiting the solar system in a nice on a nice plane, right? But the Pluto's orbit was actually different. Pluto's orbit was tilted respect to other planets. So that's first gave us the idea that maybe Pluto was a free floating planet and captured by the sun afterwards. So that's one of the possibility. And this is also another artistic rendering or conception of an object that was thrown from a star system and free floats in the sky. And that was, if you remember, a couple of years ago, there was a big news, some scientists claiming that they captured an object inside the solar system, actually close to the sun, that came from outside of the solar system. It has
just to clarify, you just said the scientists captured it, or they recorded that it was coming through, or that sounds kind of like they caught it. And you said capture. I just want to clear. They did not catch it, right?
I mean, the capture, which means like a camera capture,
Yeah, okay,
or
okay.
the data capture. It is not just grab and bring. No, that the scientists caught an object that appeared to be flew from outside of the solar system and then exited the solar system on the other direction. So it's a very hard name to pronounce and remember.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something like Oumuamua.
It's definitely tough. All right, hey Brexton, glad to see you back. We haven't seen you in a few days or a few streams. It feels like so glad to see you back, Brexton. Brexton asks, and this is kind of the answer here. He asks the question: any free floating planets in our galaxy? And not really
Yes.
a planet, but Oumuamua is one of them. We've also caught interstellar comets, if
Mhm.
I'm not mistaken. I don't have the names of it here, but anyway, very very interesting to say the least. My questions really are like, how do we detect, or what kind of studies do you do to arrive at a conclusion that says most stuff gets ejected from a protoplanetary disk? That seems crazy to me.
Yeah, and free floating planets actually made the definition of a planet very hard. After the Pluto discussion that started in 1994, by International Astronomical Union. So they said, well, we need to come up with some definition of a planet. So anything that doesn't qualify is not a planet. But I mean, they have some set of like 5, 6 items, but still not everything. I mean, one size doesn't fit all. And one of the definition of a planet was orbiting around a star. But what about free floating planets? You cannot just unconsider them. There is no good definition of a planet.
They just get that secondary term where you could say Pluto is a planet, but it's a special type of planet called a dwarf planet, right? And it's a like a rogue or a free floating planet would be a planet, but a special type, a free floating or a rogue, or I've seen a lot of different words for it. Sorry that I used a different term.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think that was a media perception that International Astronomical Union did not drop the planet status of Pluto. They just came up with a new categories for planets. Like we have terrestrial planets, which means Earth-like or rocky planets in the solar system. We have a different type, gas giants, and now we have a third type in the solar system, dwarf planets. And Pluto and beyond belongs to that category. And there are like free-floating planets in other star systems.
All right, Levent, let's get back on track for just a moment. Just to the viewers, I usually give Levent a heads up on articles as we go through these. Every once in a while, though, I find an article that I'm just like, I really want to see Levent's face as he sees this article for the first time. So if you guys are watching the stream and you keep up with much space news, astronomy news, maybe you saw this. I saw it on Twitter, I saw it on Facebook, and I saw it from some headlines I did not like. So are you ready, Levent?
I don't know what to expect.
Where could we be going with this image? All right, here's the headline, everybody. You can imagine a drum roll sound. I thought about doing that today, but we chickened out. So headline is, penguins could be aliens. Levent, any comment on penguins being aliens?
I have no objection to that.
No, okay. So I saw this first. I saw it posted by.
All right, so we need to. I mean, like we talked about the definition of a planet, right?
Yeah.
We need to also define definition of alien. With alien, when we say alien, are we talking about
okay?
the?
Can I clarify? They said that penguins could be from Venus. That was the first couple lines of the article.
Mm-hmm.
What's your comment on that?
What is the evidence? I would like to see evidence. So okay. I cannot think like yes or no. It doesn't matter. What is the evidence?
I know. Here we go.
Is important.
Here's the evidence. So they were playing with some penguin poop. I said that right. They were playing with penguin poop, and they realized, hey, there's phosphine in penguin poop. And where else did we recently find phosphine? The upper atmosphere of Venus.
I think that's a very loose evidence.
Yes, it's so loose. The headline was terrible.
I mean, if you look at the universe, the elements are pretty much the same across the universe.
But phosphine is a biosignature here on Earth. When we see phosphine, we assume that there must be something alive in the area.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they're throwing that around. But you're not wrong. Go ahead, continue, please.
So yeah, I mean, I need a little bit more strong evidence.
It was so loose. I mean, this is one of those things where I put in my notes here in all caps, be careful of misleading headlines. Too much clickbait. That's exactly what it was.
Because, we can start with the hypothesis that, yeah, that's true. And then we need to move on and consider some other questions and try to answer them. And one of the questions is, of course, Venus is a troubled planet. It is 900 degrees on the surface. It's cooking. And so far, we did not see a lot of evidence that Venus was habitable and hosted life in the past. But Mars is not the same story. Mars, we have a lot of evidence, and even surprising about Mars, uh, some theories and strong theories suggest that life actually started in on Mars in the first place in the solar system,
I don't buy 'em.
where when Earth was inhabitable. And also, if you are wondering if like where the Mars life gone, it may actually migrated to Earth because we are still not able to 100% explain how the life-making processes took place on the surface of Earth. It is easier to explain them on Mars. Mars have the necessary materials, but not on the surface of Earth. So this is still a theory. Again, theories can be disproven by the new evidence, but this is a theory. So
Definitely
did we
interesting.
come from Mars?
This is just a picture of Venus's clouds behind you.
Mhm.
For those who are curious about what that is.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's always cloudy, covered by clouds. So even if we just go around Venus with a spacecraft, we cannot see the surface. For that reason, like this, of course, we were imagining the Venus have some secrets on the surface, and it doesn't show us any of it on the through its clouds. So Russians, for the first time, decided to send a lander, robot lander, on the surface of Venus to find out what's going on. It had all the camera and everything, but actually, unfortunately, it melted when it was penetrating into the clouds because we didn't know the Venus was that hot. So it landed as a melted piece. All the electronics fried, and of course there was no transmission from the first spacecraft.
We got images from two of them, I think, right? Two of the things that we landed on Venus.
It was cool.
But the U.S. never successfully landed, as far as I know, any working probes on Venus.
Mhm.
Only the Soviet Union did.
Yeah, the Veneras were the ones successful to land.
All right, we have some questions from Kurt. Maybe it's a comment. Kurt said, "I saw where some people now believe long-term habitation on Mars is not feasible. That 3 or 4 years on Mars would kill a person. So, just tourism for billionaires. Also, penguins can apparently teleport between planets. Yeah, that 39 million. I guess if Venus is on the other side of the sun, even farther, 39 million miles is a heck of a transport. But did you see that article about Mars, Levin? I kind of know what he's talking about."
No, I did not. But my comment on can life come from outer space? Yes, and that's possible. We cannot prove for sure if some of the species on our planet actually came from transported from different planets, but that happens in meteors. So because the meteors, they were originally like a piece of rock on the surface of another planet, and we know from Earth that these rocks can contain like microorganisms. And if they are struck by another meteor from space and launched by that impact into the space, and if they don't die along the way, and some of them can be perfectly sealed or just a tough species to live, so they can land on the surface of another planet, and life can emerge, or like different species type like life can emerge from that type of rock. When I talked about like possible migration of life, this is the theory what happened from Mars to Earth.
Yeah, so the first part of his comment was talking about 3 or 4 years of Mars would kill a person. Yeah, radiation is pretty brutal, and it'd do some serious work. Here on Earth, we have atmosphere, and it's very protective, and it keeps us safe, and we're glad for that. But on Mars, we have to come up with another solution, like living underground, or I don't know if you saw this years ago. They were saying one way in order to survive the radiation without any complications, just to get to Mars, was to stack the inside of the space capsule with the astronauts' poop as they travel, because poop was pretty good protectant from radiation from the sun. You just imagine, yeah, this is my walls. It was intentional. I mean, they'd be in closed packages. Don't worry, it's not too gross. But lots of
And
poop on
let's
today's
not
show.
talk about what they drink.
Yeah, we can leave that right out. Even on the ISS,
I mean, they
just
drink
Google
water,
that.
but that water is coming from some interesting source.
Just Google that if you want to know about what the astronauts on the ISS drink. Lamia says, I think people on Earth as a planet feel so lonely to be alone in the solar system. So there should be aliens. I understand that sentiment with Lamia. I get it. I would say, even at the very least, I somewhat agree.
You know, I always say after the exploration of Mars, we will take a look at Enceladus, the fifth largest moon of Saturn.
All right, Kurt. I got to get two more comments. Brexton said his neighbor is an alien because he wears his pants backwards. That's probably true. Brexton also says you might have discussed it, but is it safe for civilians to go into space? We are about to get to that.
I think the alien people refer the visitor from outer space, right?
Yeah.
So, do you know how immigrants used to be called in the United States?
I think you're gonna tell us.
Resident alien.
There we go. um, certainly. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We have another one here from Kurt. This is right before we move on. He says there will be no successful landings on Neptune until they develop penguin-proof landers. I don't even know where to begin with that comment. Thank you for that, Kurt. Though I appreciate it. All right. Last news of the day, Levent. This one's cool. I'm excited to talk about. This is huge, you guys. Big deal. We're sending 4 civilians to space. How do you feel about sending civilians? There's no astronauts on board. Nobody knows how to fly a plane. No, like, nothing. No astronauts. Just 4 civilians. How does this make you feel, Levent? Good idea? Bad idea?
Like a boat full of people and there is no captain.
Yeah, that's correct. There's no captain. Nobody knows how to sail. They're just getting launched in the sailboat.
Mhm.
Good
So
luck.
they will rely on the maybe autopilot system that may work. There may
Uh-oh.
be some Hollywood movies may come out of this because the spacecraft goes into space and computer breaks down and somebody has to figure out how to come back using the onboard control system.
I'm excited. This
Like,
is cool.
you know, people used to make movies about the pilots are dying and the passengers are having to land the planes.
It's super cool. I think, Levent, and by think I mean I am sure that we won't have any issues with this. It's going to go up with no problem. But this launches tonight at 8 p.m. EDT, or 7 for us here in North Texas. And you guys can just keep calculating as we go down there. But 7 p.m. here in North Texas, we expect to see skies staying clear. Gonna go up, no problem. What's kind of crazy to me is that they're gonna send 4 civilians, not just like Blue Origin, where they just launched them up and they came back down, but they're going up for, and I wish I had a good answer. It seems like 3 days, but I read 4 days and 2 days. The point is, they're gonna go up there for several days before they return to Earth. So this is exciting. This is certainly a new era of space exploration. This isn't just like a fun free ride for some friends, filthy rich people. That's not what we're seeing here. We're seeing one person who is very rich, owns a company called Touch 4. Is that right? Shift 4 payment company. They do payment services on the internet. So anyway, he got 3 people who are normal citizens that he met or ran into in one way or another, and invited them on board. And this is supposed to be for charity, so he's trying to raise money for children's health. So I don't know, it's kind of interesting. Certainly something else. You ready to meet the astronauts? Let's meet. Or sorry, the civilians. I gotta get out of the way. Jared Isaacman is I think he's a billionaire. I don't know. He's very wealthy. We're gonna say it that way. Very successful. And then we have three civilians who are not billionaires. Here, Haley, Chris, and Dr. Cian. I don't know. It's kind of neat. New era. They get to go in that fancy spaceship, Levent. This looks like 21st century spaceship to me. Look at those touch screens. Oh, I'm so fired up. So excited. All right, we have a couple more questions, and we are way over time, so we'll get through these. Brexton says, this scares me, but I'm excited.
Yeah, I think we'll see more and more people wanting to go to space.
Yeah.
But my opinion is the same. There is no science or exploration attached to those type of missions. Those are just for fun. So for that reason, I'm not really interested.
But it's definitely a first. Kurt says aeronautics and LEO travel, which I'm assuming he's referring to low Earth orbit travel, is so autonomous these days that I wouldn't even worry about it. I 100% agree with that statement, Kurt. Even, and this is true, even the Mercury 7, when the Mercury astronauts found out that they weren't going to have any controls, they threw a fit that they couldn't be a pilot. And they actually convinced the engineers to put in a joystick so that if something went wrong, they could try to pull themselves out of it. They were furious about this. This is kind of wild to me. But yeah, even early on, they were like, we don't need you guys to mess anything up. Just keep your hands off the controls. This is a giant explosion, and you're coming back down.
Yeah, it is like hopping on a roller coaster. You start from the station and you're hoping to end up in the same station after loops and curves.
Definitely.
But you cannot control anything. You can just experience.
It's, yeah, just a big explosion. All right. Well, that does it for our stuff today. Is there anything else we need to mention? Anything important coming up, Levin?
Well, equinox is coming up, as we mentioned last week. The day and the length of the day and length of the night becomes to equal twice a day, twice a year. And the next one is going to be on September 22nd. And after that day, the length of the days are going to be shorter. So you will notice that with early sunsets and later sunrises. And the length of the nights are going to go longer and longer. And that will be the start of the winter.
But what it really means for me is that it's going to start getting cooler. It's already started getting cooler. That might be because we have all this weather.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, yeah. All right. Well, I guess we'll see you guys next week.
All right. See you everyone next week. In the meantime, if you have any questions or some topics that you would like us to address, please comment on our video or reach us out on the social media, message us. So we will talk about your favorite topic.
I have something really important, and hopefully not everyone left already. Okay. We should have done this at the beginning of the episode, but we didn't do it. We are starting another live stream. This is important for everybody who didn't come last week. It might be longer, might be shorter. I don't know. We haven't really decided yet. But what we want you to do is just take a few moments right now in the comments and type up what you want to see us do for our second live stream. This just gives us more ideas, and maybe we'll even do those ideas on this show. I don't know. But please take whatever it is, 20 seconds, and write down what you want to see us do on our secondary live stream, which will actually be on YouTube, right, Levin?
Yes, the second platform is going to be YouTube. And again, we need your comments on these. What are you wanting to see?
Yep. All right. Well, then I'm going to hit the end button so
All
that
right.
we can get out of here. Thank you
See you
guys
next
so
week.
much.